She called me a stupid old cow in Chinese, right there in my own kitchen, thinking I couldn't understand. Christina Walsh, my son's fiancée, speaking to her mother on speakerphone about how they needed to push this old fool aside so Nathan could finally take over the family business. I set down my coffee mug, smiled, reached for my phone. 25 years I've been building something in Silicon Valley. 25 years of staying quiet, letting people underestimate me, watching them make assumptions about the widowed father who just got lucky in tech. But you know what they say about assumptions. What I did next changed everything. But first, let me tell you how we got here. It started 6 months ago when Nathan brought Christina home to our Palo Alto house. The 12,000 square foot place I bought after my wife Sarah passed 3 years back. Christina walked through those rooms like she was already measuring for new furniture. "Vincent," she said that first dinner, "Nathan tells me you're in tech. What exactly do you do?" "I keep things simple. I invest in companies, help them grow." "Oh, like an angel investor?" She exchanged a look with Nathan. "How quaint." Nathan jumped in. "Dad's got a good eye for startups. He's done pretty well for himself." "Pretty well. That's how my son describes a portfolio worth more than most small countries' GDP. Over the following weeks, Christina made her position clear. She'd corner Nathan in conversations she thought I couldn't hear, speaking in rapid Mandarin about how I was blocking their future with my outdated ideas. "Your father doesn't understand modern business," she'd tell Nathan in English when I was nearby. "Maybe it's time for fresh leadership." Fresh leadership, in the company I built from nothing. The pattern became obvious. Family dinners where Christina would pull out her phone showing Nathan articles about tech industry evolution and generational transitions, always with that pointed look in my direction. "Vincent," she'd say, "have you heard about this new AI startup? They're revolutionizing everything. Of course, you might not be familiar with their approach." I'd nod politely, ask a few questions, let her explain things to me like I was a child learning to use a computer for the first time. Nathan started distancing himself too. Suddenly he was too busy for our weekly lunches, too occupied with strategic planning sessions that didn't include me. I'd find him in my home office, rifling through files he claimed to be organizing. "Dad, some of these documents are really old," he'd say, holding up incorporation papers. "Maybe we should digitize everything. Streamline the business for the future." The future. Always the future. Never acknowledging the present I'd already built. Christina escalated things last month. She started bringing friends to family gatherings. Stanford MBAs who'd look around my house with barely concealed hunger. They'd discuss market opportunities and succession planning right in front of me. "Vincent must have such interesting stories," one of them said during Sunday brunch. "The early days of tech must have been so simple back then." Simple, like building a fortune was some kind of accident. But the real insight came during a dinner party Christina hosted for Nathan's birthday. She invited tech industry people, young executives, startup founders, venture capitalists, the kind of crowd that drops company valuations in casual conversation. I sat at the end of the table, watching Christina work the room. She introduced Nathan as the future of Bradley Enterprises, and me as Nathan's father, who helped us get started. Helped them get started. Like I was some retired consultant who'd offered a few suggestions. That night I heard Christina on the phone with someone. "The old man's sweet," she said in Mandarin, "but he's holding Nathan back. We need to transition him out before he makes any more decisions." I made a mental note. Started paying closer attention. She ramped up the pressure after that. Suddenly every conversation included suggestions about my well-deserved retirement, how I should enjoy my golden years instead of worrying about business stress. "Vincent," she'd say, "you've worked so hard for so long. Don't you think it's time to let Nathan take the reins? You could travel, play golf, spend time with friends. Friends. Like I didn't have a network spanning 3 decades of tech evolution." The final straw came 2 weeks ago. Christina scheduled a family meeting to discuss the future direction of our shared interests. She brought a lawyer, a succession planning specialist, a wealth management advisor. "We're here," the lawyer explained, "to help Vincent transition into a well-deserved retirement while ensuring Nathan can lead the family business into its next phase." Nathan looked uncomfortable but didn't object. Christina sat there with a folder full of documents, all designed to push me into a corner office with no real authority. "These papers," she said, "will formalize Nathan's role as primary decision-maker while ensuring Vincent receives appropriate benefits as founder emeritus." Founder emeritus. Like I was some museum piece to be displayed at company events. But I stayed calm, asked a few questions, requested time to consider my options. That night I unlocked my filing cabinet. The one Nathan and Christina assumed contained old tax returns and family photos. I spread the real documents across my desk, the ones that showed exactly what I'd been building for 25 years, and I started making phone calls. Yesterday morning, Christina made the call that changed everything. I was in the kitchen making my usual Tuesday coffee when she walked in with her phone pressed to her ear. She glanced at me, saw an old man puttering around his own house, and switched to Mandarin. She said, "Mom, we have a problem." I kept stirring my coffee, stayed perfectly still. "This stupid old cow refuses to retire. Old cow. That's what she called me, in my own kitchen, in my own house. He doesn't understand modern business. Nathan needs control, but this old fool is in the way." I set down my spoon, reached for a notepad, started writing. "We need more aggressive action. Maybe tell him the company is facing difficulties? Or say investors are worried about his age." Christina paced while she talked, gesturing with her free hand. She was building her case, planning her strategy, discussing how to manipulate me into stepping aside. "He has no friends in the industry. No one will speak up for him." No friends in the industry. I almost laughed. "Once we control the company, we can sell it. Use the money to buy into quantum bridge systems. Sarah Martinez already hinted they're looking for new investors." There it was. The real plan. Sell my life's work to buy into Sarah's company. Sarah Martinez, my former mentee. The woman whose first startup I'd funded with $2 million when no one else would take a chance on her. The CEO who still called me every few months for advice. Christina didn't know any of that, of course. Nathan doesn't know the full plan. He's still being emotional. But once we complete it, he'll understand it was the right decision. So Nathan was being kept in the dark too. His fiancée was planning to dismantle his family legacy without his knowledge. The old man is easy to manipulate. He wants family harmony. We just need to make him believe this is best for everyone. Easy to manipulate. Because I wanted family harmony. She was right about that part. I did want harmony, but not at the cost of everything I'd built. What if he refuses? Christina paused by the window, looking out at the Tesla charging station in my driveway, the car Nathan didn't know I'd bought him for his upcoming birthday. Then we make him look incompetent, embarrass him in front of the board, make everyone see he's outdated. Make me look incompetent. In front of a board of directors I'd personally selected and worked with for years. I'm already talking to some people about his mistakes, about how he's blocking growth, how he doesn't understand market trends. She was already spreading rumors, poisoning my reputation in an industry I'd helped build. The conversation continued for another 10 minutes. Christina outlined her timeline, her tactics, her backup plans. She discussed my weaknesses, my blind spots, the emotional pressure points she planned to exploit. All in Mandarin, all assuming I couldn't understand a word. When she finally hung up, I was still standing there with my notepad. She glanced at me with that practiced smile. "Oh, Vincent, good morning. I was just talking to my mother about wedding planning. So many details to coordinate." Wedding planning. Right. "Interesting conversation," I said quietly. "I took notes." She frowned. "Notes? About what? Your mother sounds lovely, very strategic in her thinking." Christina's smile flickered. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Of course you don't." I tore the top page off my notepad, folded it carefully, and put it in my shirt pocket. "By the way, you should probably call Sarah Martinez before you make any more plans about quantum bridge systems." Her face went pale. What do you mean?" "Just a suggestion. Sarah and I go way back. She might have some interesting perspective on your investment strategy." I walked past her toward my office, leaving my coffee on the counter. "Vincent," she called after me, "what did you write down?" I paused at the doorway, turned back to face her. "Do you know who you're talking to?" The blood drained from Christina's face completely. That's when I knew she finally understood. I wasn't the stupid old cow she thought I was, but she had no idea how much she'd just revealed. Christina stood frozen in my kitchen for a full 30 seconds after I spoke to her in Mandarin. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to process what had just happened. You speak Chinese? She finally whispered. Fluently. Have for 20 years. Amazing what you can learn when you're building business relationships across Asia. I walked back to the counter, picked up my coffee. Your pronunciation is excellent, by the way. Very clear. Easy to follow. She grabbed the edge of the kitchen island to steady herself. How much did you... Everything. From the part where you called me a stupid old cow to your fascinating theory about my lack of industry connections. I took a sip of coffee, though I was particularly interested in your comments about Sarah Martinez. Vincent, I can explain. No need. You were quite thorough. I pulled out my phone. Speaking of Sarah, I should probably give her a call. Let her know someone's been making plans involving her company. Wait, Christina's voice cracked. Please, let me talk to Nathan first. Let me explain the situation properly. The situation where you plan to sell my company without telling your fiancé? That situation? She sank into one of the kitchen chairs. You don't understand. Nathan's afraid to push you. He doesn't want to hurt your feelings. But the business needs young leadership. Fresh vision. Fresh vision. I set down my coffee and walked to the kitchen window. Outside, the morning sun was hitting the solar panels I'd installed last year, part of a green energy initiative that had already cut our operating costs by 30%. Tell me, Christina, what exactly do you think this company does? Tech investments. Startup funding. Nathan explained it all. Nathan explained what he knows, which isn't everything. I turned back to face her. What did he tell you about our current portfolio? She straightened up, finding her confidence again. A few small investments, some local startups, maybe 12 or 15 million in total assets. 12 or 15 million. I almost smiled. And our annual revenue? Nathan estimated around 2 million, maybe 3 in a good year. 3 million. My son really didn't know anything about the business he wanted to inherit. Interesting math. I walked to my office door, gestured for her to follow. Come with me. Christina hesitated, then stood up. She followed me down the hallway to my private office. The room Nathan and she assumed contained nothing more than old family photos and outdated computer equipment. I unlocked the filing cabinet, the tall black one in the corner that Nathan had never seen opened. These are our actual financials, I said, pulling out a folder. Last quarter's statements. I handed her the Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management summary, the one showing liquid assets of $47.3 million. Her hands shook as she read the numbers. This can't be right. Keep reading. The next page showed our investment portfolio. 12 major tech companies, not 12 million in investments. 12 companies where we held significant stakes. Vincent, these numbers are accurate, audited, current as of last Friday. I pulled out another folder. This is our real estate portfolio. 6 properties, total value approximately 85 million. Christina dropped into my desk chair. Nathan doesn't know about any of this? Nathan knows what he needs to know, which is that we're comfortable financially and he'll be well taken care of when the time comes. I sat across from her. What he doesn't know is the scope of what we've built, or how we built it. But why keep it secret? Because money changes people. I wanted Nathan to develop his own work ethic, his own values, before he learned about his inheritance. I leaned forward. Unfortunately, it seems he's chosen someone who doesn't share those values. Christina was staring at the documents like they might disappear. You're saying the company is worth... The company? Christina, you're thinking too small. I opened my laptop, pulled up a secure folder. The company is just one piece. See, 25 years ago, I didn't just start a tech investment firm. I became a silent partner in the revolution itself. I turned the screen toward her, showed her the email thread from last week. 12 messages from CEOs of companies she'd recognize from their stock tickers. These are the people you think I have no connections with, the ones you told your mother wouldn't speak up for me. Her face was white now, completely drained of color. The problem, Christina, isn't that I don't understand modern business. The problem is that you don't understand who you're trying to push aside. She set the financial documents on my desk with trembling hands. Vincent, we can work something out. Nathan doesn't have to know about the conversation with my mother. Nathan's going to know everything because that's what family does.
We tell each other the truth. I stood up, walked to the window. But first, I want to understand something. Why Sarah Martinez? Why Quantum Bridge Systems specifically? It's a good investment opportunity. Growing company, strong leadership. Christina. I turned back to face her. I know you've been researching them for months.
I know you've been networking with their executives. What I want to know is why you thought you could use my son's inheritance to buy your way into a company I already control. The words hung in the air like a bomb. What? Quantum Bridge Systems, Sarah's little AI startup that's been making waves in the industry. I smiled. 40% ownership stake, founding investor, board member since day one. Christina made a sound like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. So here's what's going to happen next. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact Christina had mentioned in her conversation with her mother. Sarah? Vincent Bradley. Hope I'm not catching you too early. Good. Listen, I wanted to give you a heads up about something interesting that's come to my attention. Christina was staring at me like I'd just pulled a gun. Yes, it concerns Quantum Bridge. Someone's been spreading some fascinating rumors about succession plans at Bradley Enterprises, suggesting that new leadership might be more cooperative with certain investment opportunities. I put the call on speaker so Christina could hear Sarah's response. Vincent, that's concerning. We've had several inquiries lately about potential partnerships contingent on management changes at your firm. I assumed they were just market speculation. Speculation, that's one word for it. I glanced at Christina. The interesting part is that these inquiries seem to be coming from someone with inside information about our family business. Do you need me to look into it? We take these kinds of fishing expeditions seriously. Actually, I think I've identified the source, but I appreciate the offer. I leaned back in my chair. By the way, how's the Series C funding coming along? Oversubscribed thanks to your initial backing. We're actually having to turn investors away. Wonderful. Always good to see success rewarded. I looked directly at Christina. Send my regards to the board. Tell them their founding investor is very pleased with the company's direction. Will do, Vincent. And thanks for the heads up about the rumors. We'll make sure our team knows to flag any more unusual inquiries. I ended the call and set the phone down. Christina was gripping the arms of her chair so tightly her knuckles were white. You're a founding investor in Quantum Bridge Systems. Founding investor, board member, and according to our last valuation, my stake is worth approximately $120 million. I opened another file on my laptop. Would you like to see the incorporation documents? My signature's right there next to Sarah's. She stared at the screen, watching her entire strategy collapse in real time. This means the company you plan to buy into with my son's inheritance money? I already own nearly half of it. The CEO you thought would be impressed by your family connections? She's been taking my advice for 8 years. I stood up and walked around the desk to where she was sitting. But here's the really interesting part, Christina. Over the past 6 months, while you've been telling Nathan how outdated I am, I've been getting reports about someone making inquiries about Bradley Enterprises, someone claiming to have inside knowledge about our succession plans. Her eyes went wide. Someone suggesting that new management might be more flexible about strategic partnerships, more willing to consider investment opportunities that the current leadership was apparently too old-fashioned to understand. Vincent, I never said I had inside knowledge. No? Then explain this. I pulled out my phone again, scrolled to another contact. James Peterson, former Google executive, current board member at 3 companies you've been trying to network with. I hit dial. Vincent Bradley. Vincent. Fine, thanks. Listen, I wanted to follow up on that conversation we had last week about someone asking questions about my retirement timeline. Christina's face went from white to green. Yes, that's the one. Young woman claims to be connected to our family business. No, I've got it handled. But I wanted you to know we've identified who was spreading those rumors. That's right, completely fabricated. Yes, I'll keep you posted. I ended the call and looked at Christina. Jim says you've been very creative in your storytelling. Apparently you told his assistant that I'd been showing signs of cognitive decline, that my family was concerned about my decision-making abilities. I was just trying to understand the market landscape. The market landscape. I sat back down across from her. Christina, let me explain something about the market landscape. In Silicon Valley, reputation is everything. Trust takes decades to build and seconds to destroy. I opened a text message thread on my phone, turned it toward her. This is a group chat. 15 of the most influential investors on the West Coast. People who've known me for 20 years. People who've made billions following my recommendations. The messages were from this morning, all asking about rumors they'd heard, all confirming their continued confidence in my judgment. The story you've been telling about my declining influence? It's not playing well with people who actually know me. Christina slumped in her chair. What do you want from me? Honesty, for starters. I leaned forward. How long have you been planning this? The engagement to Nathan, the succession plan, the whole strategy to take over my company? She was quiet for a long moment. 6 months, she finally whispered, since I found out about Nathan's family business. And Nathan? How much does he know? Nothing about the more aggressive strategies. He really does think you should retire.
But he thinks it's for your own good. My own good? I nodded slowly. And your mother? The one giving you advice about how to manipulate the old man? She's very focused on financial security. She thinks Nathan's inheritance represents an opportunity to establish our family's position in American society. Your family's position. I stood up again, walked to the window. Christina, I'm going to give you one chance to handle this properly. What do you mean? You're going to call Nathan. You're going to tell him about our conversation this morning. All of it. The phone call with your mother, your plans for the company, your networking with my business contacts. Vincent, please. And then you're going to explain to him why you thought lying to your fiancé and scheming against his father was an appropriate foundation for your marriage. She started crying. Real tears. Not the strategic kind. He'll call off the engagement. Maybe. Or maybe he'll surprise you. Maybe he'll choose his family over his future wife's ambitions.
I turned back to face her. But that's his decision to make, with full information. And if I refuse? I picked up my phone one more time. Then I make a few more calls. And by tomorrow morning, every tech company in Silicon Valley knows that Christina Walsh is not someone they want to do business with. The weight of that threat settled over her like a heavy blanket. Your choice, Christina. Handle this within the family, or watch me handle it professionally. She wiped her eyes and reached for her own phone. I'll call Nathan. Nathan arrived at the house 30 minutes later. I heard his car in the driveway, the slam of his door, his footsteps across the front porch. He came through the front door like a man walking to his own execution. Dad? He called out. Where are you? Office, I replied. He appeared in the doorway, looked at Christina still sitting in my desk chair with tear-streaked makeup, then at me standing calmly by the window. What's going on here? Your fiancé has something to tell you, I said. Don't you, Christina? She looked between us, clearly hoping I might change my mind about this conversation. Christina? Nathan stepped into the room. What's wrong? You sounded upset on the phone. Nathan, there's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? I cleared my throat. The kind where she's been planning to sell my company and use the money to buy into a business I already own 40% of. Nathan blinked. What? Go ahead, Christina. Tell him about your conversation with your mother this morning, the one where you called me a stupid old cow in Chinese. Nathan's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, and finally a dawning horror. You said what? Nathan, you have to understand I was frustrated. Your father wasn't listening to our suggestions about succession planning. Our suggestions? Nathan looked at me. Dad, what is she talking about? She's talking about the plan to pressure me into retirement so you can take over the company and sell it to fund her investment dreams. I sat down behind my desk. The plan she's been coordinating with her mother in Mandarin, assuming I couldn't understand. Nathan turned to Christina. Is this true? It's more complicated than he's making it sound. Is it true? His voice was louder now. Christina's shoulders sagged. Yes. The silence in the room was deafening. Nathan, I said quietly, did you know I speak Mandarin? He shook his head slowly. Did you know we have $47 million in liquid assets? Another head shake.
Did you know I'm a founding investor in Quantum Bridge Systems? The AI company Christina's been talking about? Nathan looked between us. The one she said would be perfect for our investment portfolio? The one I've been funding and advising for 8 years. The one where my stake is currently worth about $120 million. Nathan sat down hard in the chair across from my desk. Christina, you knew about all this? I found out this morning, she said weakly. This morning? Nathan's voice was rising again. You've been pushing Dad to retire, telling me he doesn't understand modern business, and you just found out this morning that he's been building a tech empire for 25 years? Nathan, if you just let me explain... Explain what? Explain how you've been lying to me for 6 months? Explain how you've been manipulating my relationship with my father? I stayed quiet. This was between them now. I wasn't manipulating anything, Christina said. I was trying to secure our future. Your father's approach is too passive, too conservative. We could be doing so much more with these resources. We? Nathan stood up. We could be doing more? Christina, it's not our money, it's his money, that he earned, that he built. But you're his heir. I'm his son, not his business partner, not his replacement. Nathan ran his hands through his hair. God, Christina, what have you done? I've been thinking about our family's future while you've been too sentimental to have practical conversations. That was the wrong thing to say. Nathan turned to look at me. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was... I know, son. I leaned back in my chair. The question is, what do you want to do about it? He looked at Christina, who was watching him with a mixture of desperation and calculation. Christina, I need you to leave. Nathan, please. I need you to leave my father's house. Now. And I need some time to think about whether I can trust someone who's been lying to me for months. She stood up slowly. This is a mistake, Nathan. You're choosing loyalty over opportunity. I'm choosing honesty over manipulation. He walked to the office door, held it open. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Maybe. Christina gathered her purse and phone. She paused at the doorway. Vincent, she said quietly, this isn't over. I smiled. Yes, it is. 3 hours after Christina left my house, the first post appeared on her LinkedIn. Nathan was still in my office, and we were going through financial documents, having the conversation we should have had years ago, when my phone started buzzing with notifications. What's that about? Nathan asked. I opened LinkedIn, found Christina's profile, and read her post aloud. Reflecting on the challenges of working with older generations in family businesses. Sometimes experience can become a barrier to innovation, and difficult conversations about succession become necessary for everyone's benefit. Grateful for the young leaders who aren't afraid to push for change. #leadership, #family business, #innovation. Nathan stared at me. She's posting about our family situation on social media? I scrolled through the comments already appearing. Several likes from people in her Stanford MBA network. A few supportive comments about generational challenges in traditional industries. She's trying to control the narrative, I said. Make this about progressive young leadership versus stubborn old resistance to change. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Now she's posting on Instagram, I said, showing Nathan a photo of herself at a networking event last week. The caption read, When you're fighting for vision and progress, some people will call you ambitious like it's a bad thing. Keep pushing forward. #entrepreneur #woman in tech #breakthrough. Nathan was scrolling through his own phone. She's tagging tech industry hashtags, making this look like some kind of feminist business empowerment story. Smart strategy, I admitted. If she can't win the family battle, she'll try to win the public relations war. But Christina had made one crucial mistake. She assumed I wouldn't respond publicly. I opened my own LinkedIn account, the one I rarely used but maintained for exactly these kinds of situations, the one connected to 3,000 tech industry professionals. I crafted a simple post. Interesting morning learning that someone has been representing my family business inaccurately to industry contacts while spreading rumors about succession plans that don't exist. Always fascinating to see how ambition can be confused with authority. Grateful for the colleagues who reached out to verify these claims rather than simply believing them.
#integrity, #family business, #Silicon Valley. I hit publish and set my phone down. Dad, are you sure you want to get into a social media fight? Nathan, I'm not fighting. I'm correcting the record. Within 10 minutes, my post had 23 likes and 8 comments, all from people Christina had been trying to impress for months. Sarah Martinez commented, "Vincent, grateful for leaders who built this industry on trust and transparency." Dr. James Peterson added, 20 years of partnership. Some things never change, your integrity being one of them. The CEO of a major venture capital firm wrote, "The rumors never made sense. Anyone who knows Vincent knows better." Nathan was watching the comments roll in. These are all heavy hitters. These are my friends, colleagues, people I've worked with for decades. I picked up my phone as another notification appeared. The same people Christina thought I had no connections with. Christina's next move was predictable.
She posted a follow-up on Instagram, this time more aggressive. When you challenge entrenched power structures, expect pushback. When you advocate for change, expect resistance. The old guard will always try to silence progress. #disruptor #changemaker never give up. She was doubling down, painting herself as a revolutionary fighting against systemic oppression, but my network wasn't done responding. A partner at Sequoia Capital shared my LinkedIn post with his own comment. Character matters in this industry, always has, always will. The founder of a unicorn startup Christina had been trying to network with wrote, "Trust is everything in Silicon Valley. Some people understand this, others learn it the hard way." By noon, Christina's strategy was backfiring spectacularly. Her posts were getting attention, but not the kind she wanted. The comments were turning skeptical. "Who exactly are you referring to?" someone asked on her LinkedIn post. "Calling someone old guard without context seems unprofessional," another person commented. Nathan was reading over my shoulder as more responses came in. "Dad, she's losing this battle." "She lost it before she started," I said. "You can't build credibility by attacking someone else's reputation, especially when that someone has 25 years of relationships backing him up." My phone rang. Sarah Martinez. "Vincent, I've been watching the social media drama. Want me to make a public statement about our partnership?" "Not necessary, Sarah, but I appreciate the offer. The Stanford MBA network is buzzing about this. Christina's professors are asking questions. Her classmates are distancing themselves. Unfortunate consequences of poor judgment. Vincent, there's something else. She applied for a position with us last month. Executive track program. Should I be concerned about what she might have told our HR team?" I looked at Nathan, who was listening to my side of the conversation. "Sarah, I'd recommend a thorough review of her application materials, particularly any claims about family business connections or industry relationships." "Already on it. Thanks for the heads up." After I hung up, Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Dad, she's not going to recover from this, is she? Professional reputation takes years to build, seconds to destroy." I closed my laptop. Christina made a choice to attack mine publicly. Now she's learning about the strength of the network she thought I didn't have. Nathan's phone buzzed, a text from Christina. She wants to meet tonight. Says she has a proposal for moving forward constructively. I smiled. Tell her we'll see her tomorrow night, at your engagement party. Dad, should we cancel the party? Absolutely not. 200 guests, catered dinner, string quartet. I stood up from my desk. Christina wanted a public platform for her ideas about succession and family business. Tomorrow night she'll get exactly what she asked for. That evening, Nathan and I sat in my office with 25 years of documents spread across my desk. Time to show my son exactly what he'd been heir to all along. Let's start with the basics, I said, opening the first portfolio binder. Bradley Enterprises isn't just an investment company. It's a private wealth management firm with exclusive clients. I showed him our client list. 12 tech executives, 8 entertainment industry leaders, and 15 international business owners who valued discretion above publicity. Dad, these people... I recognize these names from Forbes lists. Managing other people's fortunes taught me how to build my own. I turned to the next section. But the real foundation is our equity positions. The spreadsheet told the story in numbers Nathan had never seen. Quantum Bridge Systems, 40% ownership, current valuation $120 million. Neural Networks International, 25%, valued at $80 million. Distributed Computing Solutions, 30%, worth $60 million. Neural Networks, that's the company that developed the new smartphone processors? Started them with seed funding in 2019.
Their founder was Sarah Martinez's former research partner. I pulled out another folder, which brings us to the ecosystem. This was the part Christina had never understood. The network wasn't just business relationships. It was a carefully cultivated web of mutual support spanning 2 decades. Every successful investment led to introductions to other founders. Every board position created access to new opportunities. Every favor done created obligations that could be called in when needed. I showed Nathan the email threads from the past 6 months. Founders asking for advice on valuations.
CEOs requesting introductions to potential partners. Board members seeking my opinion on strategic decisions. This is why Christina's strategy could never work, I explained. She thought she could inherit influence, but influence is earned through consistent value creation. Nathan was studying a bank statement from our private banking relationship. Dad, why didn't you tell me about any of this? Because money changes people. I wanted you to develop your own work ethic first. I leaned back in my chair, but also because I was protecting you from exactly what happened with Christina. What do you mean? People who marry for money rarely stop with the first generation. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared that afternoon. This is Christina's real background. The investigation had taken 3 hours and 2 phone calls to a private research firm I'd used for due diligence on investment partners. Christina Walsh, 29, Stanford MBA is advertised. But her family situation isn't what she represented. I handed Nathan the report. Her mother isn't a successful businesswoman in China. She's a failed real estate speculator who lost the family savings in 2018. Nathan read through the documents with growing disbelief. Her father isn't a tech executive. He's unemployed, has been for 2 years. Christina's student loans total $140,000. Her credit card debt is $32,000. Her rent on that downtown apartment, $4,000 a month, and she's 3 months behind. Dad, this says she's been networking with wealthy families for 2 years, not just us. Page 3, I said. Nathan flipped ahead, found the section about Christina's dating history. She dated the heir to Patterson Industries for 8 months last year. Relationship ended when his family discovered she'd been selling information about their merger plans to a competitor. Jesus. And before that, a 6-month relationship with the son of the founder of Meridian Holdings. That ended when they caught her photographing financial documents during a family dinner. Nathan set the report down. She's done this before. Professional gold digger with above-average intelligence and excellent strategic planning skills. I gathered the papers back into their folder. The Stanford MBA gave her credibility and access to better hunting grounds. But why me? Why our family? Because I keep a low profile. Because we don't flaunt our wealth. Because she thought she could manipulate the situation without anyone noticing. I opened my laptop, showed him the final piece of evidence. And because she didn't do her homework properly. On screen was a news article from 2019. Silicon Valley's silent partners, the investors you've never heard of. My photo was small, buried in the middle of the article, but there it was. Local tech insider Vincent Bradley has quietly built one of the Valley's most successful private investment portfolios, with estimated holdings exceeding $200 million across 12 major companies. This article came out 2 years ago, but Christina never found it because she was looking for flashy profiles and public company filings. She never looked for the quiet coverage in industry publications. Nathan was scrolling through the article. It lists our investments, our board positions, even quotes from CEOs about your influence. Christina did her research on the wrong level. She looked at public records, LinkedIn profiles, and social media presence. She never dug into the industry publications where the real information lives. I closed the laptop and stood up. Nathan, tomorrow night we have 150 guests coming to celebrate your engagement. Tech executives, venture capitalists, startup founders. The people Christina has been trying to impress for months. Dad, shouldn't we cancel? This is going to be humiliating for her. It's going to be educational for her. And for anyone else who might be confused about what our family represents. I walked to the window, looked out at the lights of Silicon Valley spread below us. Christina wanted to play in the big leagues. Tomorrow night she'll meet the actual players. Nathan joined me at the window. What exactly are you planning? I smiled. A simple family announcement about succession planning, investment priorities, and the importance of choosing the right partners.
in front of 150 witnesses, in front of 150 colleagues who've known me for 25 years, who've seen me build this network through trust, competence, and consistent results. I turned to face my son. Christina thinks tomorrow night is going to be her debut as the future Mrs. Bradley.
Instead, it's going to be her exit interview. The Peninsula Country Club had never looked better. $200,000 in renovations I'd personally funded last year meant the ballroom gleamed under crystal chandeliers that caught the light from the bay through floor-to-ceiling windows. 150 guests. The guest list Christina had insisted on approving, not knowing she was selecting her own jury. I stood near the entrance at 7 o'clock, greeting arrivals. Sarah Martinez was among the first, elegant in navy blue, accompanied by her husband and 2 board members from Quantum Bridge Systems. "Vincent," she said, kissing my cheek, "thank you for including us tonight. Though I have to say the circumstances are interesting. Evening should be educational for everyone involved." Dr. James Peterson arrived with his wife and the CEO of Meridian Holdings, the company Christina had burned bridges with during her previous relationship. "Jim, thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it, though I'm curious to meet this young woman who's been so creative with her storytelling." The venture capital crowd arrived together, as they always did. Partners from Sequoia, Andreessen Horowitz, and Kleiner Perkins. The people who'd been funding Silicon Valley dreams since before Christina was born. By 7:30, the ballroom was full. Christina hadn't arrived yet. Nathan was nervous, adjusting his tie for the 4th time. "Dad, what if she doesn't show?" "She'll show. She's spent too much money on her dress to waste the opportunity." At 7:45, Christina made her entrance. She'd chosen perfectly, a designer gown that probably cost $8,000 she didn't have, jewelry borrowed from somewhere, hair and makeup professionally done. She looked like exactly what she was trying to be, the future wife of a tech dynasty heir. The crowd parted as she walked through the ballroom, greeting guests she'd been networking with for months. I watched her work the room, dropping hints about exciting developments in our family business and new directions in our investment strategy. Several people glanced in my direction as she spoke. Sarah Martinez raised an eyebrow. Dr. Peterson looked amused. At 8 o'clock, I tapped my champagne glass with a fork. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate Nathan and Christina's engagement." Polite applause. Christina beamed, positioned herself next to Nathan at the center of the room. "Many of you have known our family for years. You've watched Nathan grow up, seen him develop into the thoughtful young man he is today. Tonight feels like the perfect opportunity to talk about the future." Christina's smile widened. This was her moment. Nathan, as you all know, has been gradually taking on more responsibility in our family business. Learning the industry, developing relationships, understanding what it takes to build lasting success in this challenging market. More nods from the crowd. Christina was practically glowing. But before we talk about the future, I think it's important to acknowledge the present, to be clear about what our family has built over the past 25 years. I gestured to Sarah Martinez. "Sarah, would you mind sharing how long we've known each other?" Sarah stepped forward slightly. "Vincent funded my first startup in 2016, $2 million when no one else would take a chance on our AI research. And that company became Quantum Bridge Systems, currently valued at $300 million, with Vincent holding our largest outside investment stake." A murmur went through the crowd. Several people looked at Christina, whose smile was starting to look frozen. "Jim," I said, turning to Dr. Peterson, "remind everyone how we met?" Google 2008. "You were consulting on our acquisition strategy. You identified 12 companies we should consider purchasing. 11 of them became major successes. And since then? You've been my go-to advisor on every major investment decision. Your insights have been worth hundreds of millions to our portfolio." The room was getting very quiet. Christina's face was losing color. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app for our Morgan Stanley account. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to address some confusion that's been circulating about our family's financial position and business strategy." I turned the phone screen toward the crowd. The account balance was clearly visible, $47.3 million. "This is our current liquid assets. This doesn't include our equity positions in 12 major companies, our real estate portfolio,
or our managed assets for private clients. The silence was deafening. Christina, I said, turning to face her directly, yesterday you told your mother that I had no friends in the industry, that no one would speak up for me. I'm curious, looking around this room tonight, do you still believe that? Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly. You also mentioned that once you and Nathan took control of our business, you planned to sell it and use the proceeds to buy into quantum bridge systems. I gestured to Sarah. Sarah, what's your take on that strategy? Sarah stepped forward. Vincent is our founding investor and board member. Anyone wanting to purchase equity in our company would need his approval, which seems unlikely, given the circumstances. Unlikely, I repeated. That's a diplomatic way to put it. I looked around the room, made eye contact with a dozen people Christina had been trying to impress. Over the past 6 months, several of you have reached out to me about rumors circulating regarding my retirement, my mental fitness, and my family's plans for succession. Tonight seems like a good time to address those rumors directly. Christina was gripping Nathan's arm so tightly her knuckles were white. The rumors were started by someone claiming to have inside knowledge of our family business. Someone suggesting that new management would be more flexible about partnerships and investment opportunities. I pulled out my phone again, opened the recording app. 3 days ago, I recorded a conversation that took place in my own kitchen. A conversation where someone outlined their strategy for manipulating me into retirement. Christina's eyes went wide. The conversation was in Mandarin. The speaker assumed I couldn't understand. She was wrong. I hit play on the recording. Christina's voice filled the ballroom, crystal clear through the sound system. This stupid old cow refuses to retire. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Several people pulled out their phones, likely recording. He has no friends in the industry. No one will speak up for him. I stopped the recording. The silence in the room was absolute. Christina, I said quietly, you called me a stupid old cow. In my own house, in front of my son, while planning to steal my life's work. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. But the part that really interested me was your comment about my lack of friends in the industry. I gestured around the ballroom. I count 42 people in this room who've known me for more than 10 years. 68 who've done business with me. 12 who owe their current success to investments I made in their companies. Nathan was staring at Christina like he'd never seen her before. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. Nathan and I are going to continue building our family business exactly as we have been. Carefully, quietly, with respect for our partners and colleagues. I looked directly at Christina. You, however, are going to discover that reputation in Silicon Valley is a small world. Word travels fast. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. I turned back to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to what should have been a celebration, but sometimes family business requires public clarification. Sarah Martinez started applauding. Slowly, the rest of the room joined in. Christina ran from the ballroom, her designer dress trailing behind her. Nathan stood frozen for a moment, then walked over to me. Dad, I'm sorry, I had no idea. I know, son. That's why this needed to happen publicly, so everyone understands exactly what our family represents. Dr. Peterson approached us, grinning. Vincent, that was the most educational engagement party I've ever attended. The partner from Sequoia Capital clapped me on the shoulder. 25 years I've known you, Vincent. Always wondered when you'd finally let people see what you'd really built. Sarah Martinez was the last to approach. Vincent, what you did tonight, that took courage. No, I said, watching the door Christina had disappeared through. What I did tonight was long overdue. The party continued until midnight, but the real business was over. By morning, everyone in Silicon Valley would know exactly who Vincent Bradley was, what he'd built, and what happened to people who tried to take it from him. Monday morning brought 3 legal documents to Christina's apartment. The first was a cease and desist order regarding her social media statements about our family business. Her LinkedIn and Instagram posts had been screenshot and saved. Any future defamatory statements would result in immediate legal action. The second was a formal complaint filed with Stanford's MBA Ethics Board. Misrepresenting family connections for networking purposes violated their professional conduct standards. Her alumni status was under review.
The third was a comprehensive background report being distributed to every major tech company in Silicon Valley. Her pattern of targeting wealthy families, her financial problems, her history of industrial espionage, all documented and verified. Nathan received a different set of documents that morning. The complete Bradley Enterprises portfolio, with his name added as co-beneficiary. A trust structure that would transfer full control to him on his 35th birthday. And a revised will that made his inheritance contingent on demonstrating sound judgment in personal relationships. "Dad," he said, sitting across from my desk, "I don't know how to apologize for bringing her into our family. You don't need to apologize for being deceived by a professional." I closed the laptop where I'd been reviewing our portfolio. "You need to learn from it." What happens to Christina now? Christina will discover that Silicon Valley is a very small town. Word has already reached the companies where she applied for positions. Her MBA network is distancing themselves. Her prospects in the tech industry are essentially zero. I pulled out my phone, showed him a message I'd received an hour earlier. She's already trying to salvage something. Offered to sign a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for a positive reference. Are you going to give her one? Nathan, I spent 25 years building a reputation based on trust and integrity. I'm not going to damage that reputation to help someone who tried to destroy our family. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Dad, what should I have done differently? Asked better questions about her background, her motivations, her understanding of what our family represents. I leaned back in my chair. But mostly you should have talked to me. Really talked. About the business, about your future, about what you wanted from life. I was afraid you'd think I wasn't ready. Nathan, readiness isn't about age or education. It's about character. And you proved your character Saturday night when you chose honesty over convenience. He smiled for the first time since the engagement party. So what happens now? Now we build something together. Properly this time, with complete transparency and mutual respect. I stood up, walked to the window overlooking Silicon Valley, and the next time someone underestimates this family, they'll already know better. The phone rang. Another CEO wanting investment advice. Just another day in the empire everyone thought didn't exist,